Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Chine. If this is your first time coming across my video, you're welcome, and if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for being here. In today's video, I'm going to be taking you guys through the process of making these pleated waist jumpsuits. I've had my eyes on this jumpsuit for a very long time, so I finally decided to make it. So if you would love to know how I made this, please keep watching and don't forget to subscribe. To make this jumpsuit, I'll be using 4 yards of soft crepe materials. Now you need to know that 4 yards will be enough for any size, whether small size or plus size. You just need 4 yards to make this jumpsuit, and I made mine very full, so 4 yards will definitely do. The first thing I'm going to do is to measure out 3 inches. This is a jumpsuit, so I need a little allowance at the beginning of the paper just for the crotch extension. So I'll measure out 3 inches, then I'll draw a straight line. The next thing I'll be doing is to get my shoulder to bust point, then I'll also get my shoulder to waist. I'll use my ruler to connect these lines. After connecting the lines, I'll just go ahead and label. The next measurement I'm going to be getting is waist to hip. Now my waist to hip is about 8 inches. For a taller person, it might be 9 or 10. So you can go ahead and measure your waist to hip. Then I'll get my crotch length measurements. My crotch length measurement is 11 inches, but I'm going to be using 12 inches so that the crotch will be free on me. Okay, to get your crotch length measurement, you just need to divide your hip by 3 inches. If you want the jumpsuit to be free on the crotch, you can go ahead and add 1 inch to the crotch length. Okay, so the rest of the paper is going to be the full length of my jumpsuit. So the next thing I'm going to be doing now is to get my shoulder measurement. So my shoulder is 14, I'll divide it by 2, that's 7. Then I'll get my sleeve length. On the sleeve length, I'll just come down by 1 inch. This will be for the shoulder slant. Then I'll get the neck width and the neck depth. For the neck width, I'll be using 3 inches, and for the depth, this jumpsuit has a v-neck. I'll be using 7 inches for the depth. So I'm going to use my ruler to connect this line. So the next thing I'm going to do is to put my bust measurement. My bust measurement is 33 inches. I'm going to add extra 6 inches on the side. Okay, so I'll go over to the waist and add my waist measurement. My waist measurement is 29 inches. I'm also going to add extra 6 inches. Now this 6 inches is for the pleats that will be on the waist. Okay, so I'll also go over to the hip and put my hip measurement. My hip measurement is 36. I'm going to divide it by 4. Then I'll add extra 7 inches. I want this jumpsuit to be very full, so I'm going to add extra 7 inches. Left for me, I would add maybe extra 8 inches because I really like bogus jumpsuits. Now I'll also put these measurements on the crotch length. Okay, I'll head over to the sleeve and put my round sleeve measurement. For the round sleeve, I'll be using 14. If I divide it by 2, I'll have 7. So I'm just going to use my ruler to connect it. I'm going to connect this measurement, but before I do that, I'll just go ahead and put my shoulder to under bust. The pleats will be on the under bust, so I just have to put the under bust measurement. I'll still put the 6 inches allowance that I put on the bust. Then I'll go ahead and use my hand to connect it at this point. I'll also connect from the hip to the waistline. Then I'll just extend the line to the crotch length. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is to get my crotch extension. To get the crotch extension for the front, you need to divide your hip measurement by 10. I got 1.8, but I'll just be using 2 inches for the crotch extension. Then on the hip line, I'm going to come out by 0.25, and I'll extend the crotch extension. Then I'll use my ruler to get the curve for the crotch. Okay, after that, I'm going to draw a straight line from the crotch to the full length of the jumpsuit. I'll also do the same thing on the side of the jumpsuit. So the next thing I'll be doing is to put the waist dart. So from the center front on the half length line, I'm going to come in by 2.5. For the dart, I'm going to be using 2 inches for each dart. That's why I added extra 6 inches to my waist measurement. Now 1 inch on both sides. Okay, for the length of the dart, I'm going to be using 5 inches because I want this dart to only be on the waist. I don't want it to extend down to the hip. So I'm going to be using 2 inches for each dart, 1 inch on both sides. I'm trying to get the measurement, and for the space, I'm going to be using 2 inches as well. After getting my dart measurement, the next thing I'll do now is to cut out the front pattern. If you want to cut this jumpsuit, you don't need to draft a pattern for it. You can just draft directly on your fabric. I'm just using paper for illustration and also for clarity's sake. So I'll just go ahead and cut out the front. Cutting the front here, so the next thing I'll do is to place my front on another paper so I can cut out the back. The back crotch extension is a bit different from the front, so you need to get it right so that the crotch will be very comfortable and it will come out very well. I'll go ahead and use my pin to hold it down so it doesn't move. So the next thing I'm going to do is to measure out 1 inch for my zip allowance. I'll just go ahead and use my ruler to connect it to the top. So the next thing I'm going to be getting now is the back neck depth. For the back neck depth, I'm going to be coming down by 1 inch. So I'm just going to use my ruler to connect it. The next thing I'm going to do now is to get my crotch extension. To get the back crotch extension, I'm going to divide my hip measurements by 20. For the front, I divided my hip measurements by 10, and for the back, I'll be dividing the hip measurements by 20. So I got 3.6. So I'm going to put exactly 3.6 on the back crotch, okay? I'm going to use my ruler to extend the crotch line. I'll go ahead and connect my crotch at this point. So the next thing I'm going to be doing now is to measure 1 inch on the inseam line. I'll draw a straight line just exactly the way I did on the front. Then I'll go ahead and connect to the crotch. So I'm done with the back at this point. The next thing I'm going to do is to come in by 1/2 inch on the waistline. Now I'm trying to eliminate any zip budge. I'll just use my ruler to connect to the hip part and then the top of the back. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to cut out the back. Then I'll proceed to transferring to my fabric. I'm done cutting the front and the back here, and this is what I have. The next thing I'm going to do now is to transfer to my fabric. Transferring this to the fabric is very easy. All you need to do is to add 1/2 inch on all sides. Now, the 1/2 inch is not very compulsory, especially if you're drafting directly on your fabric. So I'll just go ahead and add 1/2 inch on all sides, then I'll cut out. So I'm done cutting out here. The next thing I'm going to do now is to notch where my pocket is going to be. This jumpsuit has an inner pocket, so I'm just going to notch where the pockets will be. On the waistline, I'm going to notch the waistline. Then I'll measure 6 or 7 inches. That will be the length of the pocket. So I'm going to do the same thing on the back so that the front and the back notch will be exactly the same. For the pocket, I'm just going to measure a square of 9 inches by 9 inches. Then I'll curve it on one side, okay? When I'm done fixing the pocket, I'm still going to reduce this pocket. It's not going to be as big as this. The next thing I'm going to do now is to use pins to hold the dart of these jumpsuits so that it will be very easy for me to sew. So I'm going to measure from my shoulder to under bust. The dart will start from the under bust. From the center front, I'm going to measure 2.5. Then I'll measure 2 inches for the first dart, okay? Then I'll leave a space of 2 inches. Then I'll measure another 2 inches for the dart, leave a space of 2 inches, and I'll just go ahead and measure the last one. The next thing I'll do is to use my pins to hold these darts so that it will be very easy for me to sew. So the length of my darts is 5 inches. I'm going to start working on the darts now. You just have to make sure the spacing is equal and the length of the darts is the same. I'm going to do it for both the front and the back. You need to take your time when you're doing this. Sewing the jumpsuit is not difficult, but you need to get every other thing right. I'm just taking my time to do this so that when I want to sew it, it will be very easy for me to sew. I'm done working on the darts here, and this is what it looks like. So I'll go ahead and do the same thing for the other side of the front and also for the back. So if I take my measurements now, my waist measurements, you see that is exactly the waist measurement and ½ inch extra for allowance. I'm done holding the pleats for the front and the back. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to start joining this jumpsuit. So for the front, I'm going to close the center and I'll work on the neck. I'll also go ahead and sew the darts. So I'm done working on the front, and this is what it looks like. I went ahead to use small part of the material to turn the neck. Then I joined the center and I sewed the darts. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to do exactly the same thing on the back. This is my back pattern. The first thing I'm going to do now is to hold the dart, then I'll sew in the zip. Okay, I'm using an invisible zip for this so that it won't be so obvious that there is a zip on this jumpsuit. Then I'll go ahead and work on the neck. I'm done working on the back here. The next thing I'm going to do now is to join the shoulder of the front and the back. Then I'll go ahead and hem the sleeves. Okay, so I'll take it to my sewing machine, then I'll come back and show you guys what it looks like. I'm done joining the shoulder here. I also went ahead to hem the sleeves. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to join the crotch of the front and the back. I'll start joining from the center of my crotch. I'll sew one side of the inseam first, then I'll go ahead and sew the other side. So I'll quickly take this to my sewing machine, then I'll come back and show you guys what to do next. So I'm done sewing the crotch here. The next thing I'm going to do is to join my pocket. So I already notched where the pocket will start and where the pocket will stop. So this is how I placed my pocket. The right side of the jumpsuit is facing the right side of the pocket. Okay, so I'll go ahead and fix the pocket on both sides. I'm done joining the pockets here, and this is what it looks like. Remember I said this jumpsuit is going to have an inner pocket. So what I'm going to do now is to join the sides. So from the sleeve, I'm going to join until I get to 1 inch before the joining of the pocket. From the sleeve, you will sew until you get to 1 inch before the joining of your pocket. Then from when you stop your sewing, you're going to measure 6 inches and continue your sewing from there. This simply means the 6 inches measurement is going to open when you turn the jumpsuit to the front. So you sew from the sleeve, then stop 1 inch after the joining of the pocket, then measure 6 inches and continue your sewing. Okay, so I'll take this to my sewing machine and I'll come back and show you guys what it looks like. So I'm done joining the sides here, and I went ahead to also close the pocket. After closing the pocket, I had to reduce it. Okay, so I'm going to turn this to the front, then I'll show you guys what it looks like. At this point, this jumpsuit is ready. I'll just go ahead and hem the down part. So this is my jumpsuit. I've turned it to the front. So this is the pocket. There are different ways of making this pocket. You might have your own way of making the pocket, so you can go ahead and use it. And if you have any question for me, please ask me in the comment section. This is the end of this tutorial. I hope you learned something. Please do not forget to give this video a thumbs up and turn on the notification bell so that anytime I upload a new video, you'll be the first to know. We have a lot of tutorials coming up on this channel, so I know you wouldn't want to miss out. I'll go ahead and show you guys what this jumpsuit looks like when I wore it. So I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye. Thank you.